first technical session. I'm welcoming you in conference room 1. We have 4 presentations in this session. And the first presentation is by Rizwana Wahid, Tanzina Halim, and Sanjida Halim from King Khalid University, Saudi Arabia. They will be presenting on the topic Perspectives Towards the Pedagogy of Grammar through online mode at the tertiary level. Who will be presenting amongst the 3 of you, please? May I know?
All 3 of us.
Okay. So you have 10 to 12 minutes within which you have to wind up your presentation. Please stick to the time limit. Hello?
Yeah, just 1 minute. Yes, we are.
Will you be using a digital screen sharing mode?
Just
Yes, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. Okay. First of all, on behalf of my group members, I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the organizers to give us the chance to present in this conference. Our topic is Perspectives Towards the Pedagogy of Grammar Through Online Classes at the Tertiary Level. Grammar is indispensable to language learning, and this is something we all know. Without it, no language can be learned properly. In the 21st century, online education is not a new phenomenon at all, and the use of technology to impart lessons in any course is imperative. In recent times, technology has grown at a fast pace and overtaken many aspects of education. Students nowadays cannot think of studying without using technology. As soon as they come across a course they have to choose, they immediately take the help of technology to guide them. Students and teachers also believe that they cannot get any updated information and complete guidance without using technology. However, it is noticed that online classes have their challenges with which both teachers and students are faced with these challenges. Now let's take a look at the difficulties faced in giving grammar instructions online. There are many difficulties which have been researched, and researchers have given their opinions about this. The sudden shift during the pandemic in 2020, during that time it was noticed that from traditional classes to online classes made learners and teachers who had been used to having face-to-face classes for years face a tremendous change in the whole system of giving and receiving instructions. Both teachers and students who were familiar with the traditional system of meeting, interacting, communicating face-to-face were suddenly being challenged with adapting to the system of online instructions. And in teaching grammar classes, engaging the students online for exercises is quite difficult for teachers, because for students, taking online lessons requires a lot of time, skill, practice, and patience. Now, what are the positive sides of conducting grammar classes face-to-face? Most students are highly motivated to know about the course. They can easily engage in pair work or group work. They immediately ask teachers about any problem they face regarding any rules, structures, or patterns. Teachers can demonstrate a variety of examples in a face-to-face class. For example, while presenting grammar items like tenses, parts of speech, nouns, adjectives like comparative superlative forms, verbs, adverbs, active passive voice, sentence structures, face-to-face classes are always effective. Now, moreover, practical application of the rules and structures is more effective. Students get the benefit of getting feedback on their performance. Immediately, teachers can monitor whether all students bring their test books, and attendance and participation of the students are satisfactory. What about the negative sides of conducting grammar classes online? Attendance of the students is not satisfactory, participation is less, only a few students are interested to learn the course, and it becomes difficult to monitor if all students have the textbook with them and if they follow the textbook, as there is no way to monitor these things. There is a lack of motivation on the students' part. Some students only just attend the classes without participating at all. There is also less practical application of the structures, and if students fail to understand anything, this is the greatest problem which students faced. They are reluctant to ask teachers. teachers. Now, there are numerous studies which were conducted on regarding online classes. According to some researchers, it is stated that effective online instruction is dependent on well-designed content, motivated interaction between the instructor and learners, well-prepared and fully supported instructors. Moreover, according to some other researchers, they state that online classes make teachers more creative. In their study, they demonstrate that teachers have a very good attitude towards online classes. It makes teachers use the best applications to conduct online lessons. However, there are contradictory views regarding this. According to some researchers, they state that from teachers' perspectives, online classes are not much preferred. According to them, online classes fail to fill up the emotional attachment between teachers and students, which was felt during the online lessons during the pandemic. And from the students' perspectives, we see that, students prefer the use of technology in class because, listening to teachers' lectures in traditional classrooms have become very boring for them. Without laptops, tabs, and smartphones, they easily lose their concentration and they get bored and they get distracted. Now, according to some researchers, they came with the same point that in higher education, use of technology such as laptops, smartphones, or other devices are used to engage students. Since they are growing up in a digital world, they do not find traditional classes interesting and they do not have so much patience and concentration to focus on lecture-based classes. And students expect that, teachers will come up with new and innovative ideas with the help of technology and keep them engaged in every lesson. Now, I will hand it over to Dr. Rizwana. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanjita. Ms. Tandina. So the objectives of our paper are to overcome the problems of having grammar classes online. Therefore, our study is aimed to fill the gap in the literature by answering these following questions. Number one, what difficulties do teachers and students face while conducting grammar classes online? Two, does attending online grammar classes affect students' level of understanding and concentration? And what strategies do teachers and students follow to cope with the problems of conducting and attending online classes? And how can those difficulties and challenges be solved? So for this, we conducted one study at a public university in Saudi Arabia, and 100 participants participated in this study. There were 20 teachers and 80 students, and teachers were who taught grammar online to EFL learners and at least for 2 semesters. The same case was with the students. They also had online classes for 2 semesters, and these students were the students of level 2 and 3 in their first and second year of bachelor program. And the instrument that we used, and there were 2 questionnaires. First questionnaire was for the teachers, consisting of 10 closed items, and all items were prepared on a 5-point Likert scale, starting from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And the questionnaire was based on the perspective of teachers who had taken grammar classes online for 2 semesters. Similarly, for the student participants, the questionnaire consisting of 7 closed items was prepared, and all variables on a 5-point Likert scale, the same like teachers, starting from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And for the students also, the questionnaire was based on the perspective of students who had taken grammar classes online for 2 semesters. For the data collection procedure, we collected the data, and first of all, the questionnaire was prepared on Google Forms, and the link was forwarded to the participants by course messages, email, or SMS. Approximately in 10 days, we collected the data, and then the hypothesis, the hypothesis had the negative impacts of online classes and difficulties both teachers and learner faced in web-based teaching and learning. So based on this experience, we prepared this research. Then for doing the analysis, we used SPSS, and for the tabulation, a descriptive analysis was made, minimum, maximum, mean, and standard deviation, to identify the perspective of teachers and students regarding online grammar classes. Now over to Ms. Sanjita. She will talk about findings and discussions. Yes,
thank you, Dr. Rizwana. We will have a look at the findings and the discussion of the study. We see that teachers and students face more challenges in online grammar classes than the traditional classes. The problems occur when teachers try to give online instructions to students. In face-to-face classes, teachers can demonstrate examples on the spot. It cannot always be predicted what kind of problems or queries learners may have. While explaining the lessons, if students come up with any questions, teachers are physically present there to answer the questions. Moreover, some learners feel confident when they can see the teachers in front of them. Their tone, facial expressions, body language all contribute to the learning process. So in summing up, we can say that online teaching and learning definitely have the benefits, but when it comes to varying perspectives, they also have their challenges. Online lessons can be conducted in certain situations that we have witnessed during the pandemic, but not for a long period, especially for beginners who require a lot of skills and training to manage time and must have organizational skills. At the same time, teachers should be properly trained and be familiar with setting up a totally technology-based learning environment. Some teachers feel that technology can make the lessons more interesting and engaging, but to make learning and teaching effective, both the face-to-face class and the web-based learning are important. No matter how autonomous learners become, due to online classes, there will still be learners who prefer face-to-face interaction with their teachers. Therefore, based on the discussions, we have some recommendations. Number one, teachers should be more trained to conduct online classes. They should be familiar with various applications so that they can make the learning process effective. Teachers should try to engage students more in the online sessions. On the part of the students, they should take online classes more seriously. Attendance should be made mandatory. Students should attend and participate more in online sessions instead of just attending it only to pass the course. Students should be more responsible and try to apply grammar rules learned in class. They should engage in more activities outside the class to enhance their learning. And last of all, the institutions should ensure that both teachers and students do not face technical difficulties during the online classes and exam hours. These are the references of our presentation and the paper. Thank you. If you have any questions, you are most welcome.
Thank you, Rizwana Bhai, Tanzina Halim, and Sanjida Halim for this enlightening lecture on the problems of online teaching, especially in English grammar. You have very effectively dealt with all the problems that the teachers face. Plus, you have also taken into account the perspective of the students while attending such classes. And obviously we all have been teaching during the COVID time, so all of us as English teachers have also failed these have also faced these problems, like restricted interaction between students and teachers, the problems of discipline, plus the student always has the option to switch off the camera and abscond from the class. But you said training and familiarization with newest technologies and engagement with the students, that is one of the prime factors which make online engagement fulfilling and
Yes.
appealing to the students. So I really commend you on that, and thank you for this presentation. I would love to have the entire presentation and share it with other people also. It's something that is useful for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now I invite the next presenter for the day, Dr. Brahmadatta, Associate Professor from Motilal Nehru College, University of Delhi, who will be talking on Buddhism and its relevance in contemporary India. I can see Brahmadatta ji here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good
Thank
morning,
you.
sir.
Good
Please go
afternoon.
ahead with the presentation, and I will gently remind you to keep within the time limits, which is 12 minutes or so.
All
Thank
right,
you
ma'am.
so much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I would like to say thank you very much to the organizers. I mean, the whole team of organizing committee. And my topic is Buddhism and its relevance in contemporary India. It means the present time. So not only for its spiritual sublimity, but also as a socio-political system that championed equity and egalitarianism, the teachings of Lord Buddha have had a lasting impact on the standards of Indian civilization and found practitioners abroad. It is generally agreed that humans are egocentric and prioritize their happiness over others. The end of our planet is near if people put their needs ahead of those of their neighbors and country. The root cause of all wars and conflicts in people protecting their interest at the expense of their neighbors. Several wars and acts of terrorism and violence have been spurred by racial, sexual, economic, and religious intolerance that tarnished the 20th century. The international community is at a loss as to how to safeguard humanity from future acts of terror in the face of level of savagery, whether on the part of individuals or the government. In this environment, it is simple to lose sight of great philosophical teachers that has always emphasized the importance of world peace. Lord Buddha and his teachings can prevent the impending global disaster in innumerable ways. This research looks at how teachings of Buddha could contribute to a peaceful and stable international system. It is commonly believed that the study of international relations is responsible for creating and maintaining the stable political system on a global scale. However, the study of international relations can be approached from various viewpoints, including Indian philosophy, Buddhism. Tenets are particularly applicable in this situation. The religious revolution in India can be traced back to the time of Lord Buddha, who began his teachings around 600 BC in response to the casteist violence of the late Vedic period. Buddhist thought gained influence in India. The Kshatriya king were interested in Buddha's teaching and eventually abandoned their violent ways. Ashoka, king of India, is commonly believed to be a devout Buddhist. He implemented Buddhist ideas into his system of government. His existence was dedicated to spreading the faith and uniting people worldwide in peace. Good and evil in Buddhist thinking are relative to the individual's wisdom and character. A fundamental tenet of Buddhist philosophy is a commitment to ethical behavior. Mastery of one's own emotions and biases through moral practice is central to Buddhist ethics. Buddha emphasized the need to develop virtue and wisdom in his teaching, arguing that they complement one another. Virtue, the fruit of man's disciplined and educated efforts to reform his heart, is how he can attain salvation on earth. To help people feel better, Buddha created his religion. The middle path is the one that allows you to experience the most happiness with the least amount of difficulty. Following Buddha's middle route is the only way to create harmonious society and environment, as well as an ethical pact between individuals and the collective. And the six, the perfection of Buddhism. Buddhism believes in six perfections, which are important because they allow them to follow the path of Buddha's Dhamma or Dharma. This allows them to reach enlightenment, which is what all Buddhists attempt to achieve in their lifetime. The six perfections give guidelines as a structure for how to live a good life and behave in a good way. Examples of morally good behavior include being generous and charitable, putting other people before yourself, always telling the truth, and being mindful of other people's feeling. And these perfections are generosity, it means dena. In the first perfection, it means the sincere and selfless desire to give to others with no expectations. Second is morality. It means Sila. It means to follow the five morals aspects, percepts of life: patience, Shanti. In the third perfection, it means tolerance, forbearance, and endurance. It means, sorry, next is energy, is the making a concert effort, efforts to achieve and attain enlightenment. And then meditation is a way of helping a person to attain the highest state of consciousness. And last is wisdom. It means the understanding that is gained through Buddhist practice, such as meditation, And in the aftermath of World War II, nations come together to figure out how to strengthen their relationship, expecting that this would eventually lead to peace on earth, a thriving economy, and more equitable distribution of world's resources. The more time passes, the more urgent and the problems of world sustainability becomes, and the more obvious it becomes that international community must act together to avoid the extinctions of wipe out the humanity owing to a lack of resources and the inevitable feuds that world follow. As a global community, we must find ways to help nations settle their disagreements without resorting to violence. It is one of the most fundamental aims of international relations. Recent sustainable development goals created by the United Nations are focused solely on advancing world peace and prosperity, and these are such goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goal, that is, promote peaceful and inclusive societies, and sustainable development provides access to justice for all and builds effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions to all levels. And goal number 17 is renew and strengthen the global partnership of sustainable development and its means of implementation. The more people need to be tolerant of one another so that we may all come together and appreciate the rich cultural diversity that makes up our global society. Buddha taught tolerance in ancient India. He said, tolerance is the key to both personal and international tranquility. Being tolerant of other people's opinion is an indication of moral rectitude. Because of its weight in international affairs, a thorough understanding of this philosophy is essential. India may improve relations with its neighbors and other countries by learning to tolerate the shortcomings of other countries. In Buddhist thought, the distinction between good and evil is based on individuals' levels of enlightenment and moral character. Buddha's teachings place great emphasis on morality. The goal of Buddhist ethics is a mastery of one's desire and prejudices, which is achieved by moral conduct. One of Buddha's gospel describes how goodness and wisdom feeds off one's another. A man can find redemption in this world by cultivating a better character via introspection and self-discipline. The core belief of Buddhism is that all human suffering should be alleviated. The intermediate way offers the most pleasure with the least amount of pain. The only way to create an ethical convent between man and society for pleasure and between man and nature for ecological harmony is to follow Buddha's middle road. Lord Buddha advocated for equality and tried to do away with untouchability and caste system in Hinduism. Ambedkar was only individual in the 20th century to fight and raise the struggle to this level. As a direct result of his efforts, the historically oppressed classes were finally recognized as equals before the low. Realistically, the caste system that has existed in India for almost 2 millennia will not disappear overnight. This led Ambedkar to the pivotal choice of becoming a Buddhist. He concluded that Buddhism was the sole faith that could help the downtrodden. Our current idea of nation was shaped by our cultural intellectual understandings, which manifests itself in the peaceful, sustainable foreign relations persuaded by Indians. Thanks to the legacy of Buddha and the modern day leaders like Ambedkar, India is a peaceful, non-violent place. We have the means to mount a strong defense against any invasion that might come our way. India has become a significant world power in recent decades, one that sees ahimsa and tolerance as a means to world peace and prosperity in addition to military might. Thank you very much. This is my paper. Thank you. If the questions, please.
Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. It outlined and summed up all the Buddhist, let us say, the core of all the ideas that Buddha gave to us, and especially the fact where he says that one should put his needs ahead of the other's needs. And the Buddha teachings are really relevant in these times, particularly because of, even not just now, but in coming centuries also. As long as good and evil are existing, the teachings of Buddha will remain relevant in the present scenario and his future. And as you said about sustainable development and the role of Buddha's teachings in, promoting sustainable development, generosity, tolerance, and it all, comes down or boils down to no greed. Like, we are greedy, we are becoming greedy. That is why we are taking from the earth, we're not giving back to it. And in this context, once we realize that, others' needs are as important as ours, we'll ultimately reach that goal. And Buddha's teachings will never go out of fashion. I mean, it's not exactly correct to say out of fashion, but they will always remain relevant. And your paper captured that essence in a very beautiful and subtle way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
And now I will invite Dr. Junaid Shabir from Amar Singh College for a presentation on the Chilapatikam, the saga of Tamil literature.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Are you going to use a presentation, PPT?
No.
So you have 12 minutes to, go
Thank
through
you.
your thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
A very good afternoon to all. I am Dr. Junaid Shabir from the Department of English, Amar Singh College, Kashmir. So the title of my paper is the Silapatikaram, a saga of Tamil culture. Well, the Silapatikaram is a poem, or you may say an epic, that consisted in the original Tamil of 5,730 lines. It's composed in the Kava meter, probably in the 5th century. This meter is also called the Assyrian, the master's meter, and is the predominant meter of epic poetry. I hope I'm audible, am I?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, and it is the
Please
prominent meter of epic poetry. Each line has 4 feet, except the penultimate one, which has only 3 feet. The shortened penultimate line indicates the approaching end of the canto. 2 other meters are also used in the poem, the Kali and Venpa. There are few passages of prose, the Kali and Venpa. And one of them, I told you that there are few passages of prose, and one of them runs to 56 lines. They are the earliest examples of prose in Tamil literature. The poem is divided into 3 books, which we call in Tamil literature as cantam. And each book is in turn divided into cantos. Well, these books, they are named after the capitals of three great Tamil kingdoms, Kola, Pandya, and Sira. These are the three. I repeat, Kola, Pandya, and Sira that constitute the point setting. As I said, that book is divided into three cantos, and each canto has a different title. The first book is titled as Book of Pukar. It comprises of 9 cantos. The second one is Book of Mutara. It composes of 11 cantos, and the third one is Book of Vansi, comprises of 5 cantos. These three books they represent the three distinct phases through which the narrative moves: erotic, mythic, and the heroic. The erotic, that is Akam, and the heroic Puram, are the traditional categories of Tamil discourse. The poet enlarges and deepens its resonance by adding a mythic dimension to it. Love in all its aspects is explored in the Book of Pukar along the conventions of Tamil erotic poetry. The Book of Moturai returns the myth of Kanagi. Kanagi is the protagonist in Silapatikaram. In Kanagi's apotheosis into the goddess Patini. So this is the heroic aspect of kinship. They are the subject of the Book of Song. Here again, the poet, he follows the conventions of Tamil heroism. Kanagi's exemplary life has shaped wide impacts on all the three phases of the narrative, and it makes it structurally coherent. Tamil tradition it describes the composition of the Silapatikaram to Ilangoy. Ilangoy, he was the younger brother of the king Senkutum. However, there is no mention of Ilangoy in Narwar's praise poem on Silapatikaram. And this Purnar plays point on Senkutuan in the Patiru Pati, and which is an anthology of songs on the Purnar and it is used by historians, such as we have a prominent historian. His name is K.A. Nilankata Shastri, and he has reconstructed the Tamil history in his book, and the title of the book is History of South India. So there is no mention of Lingua in the poem itself, but his name does appear. His name appears only in the Pandika, that is the law, which and so scholars are of the opinion that this epic it has been written in Lingua. Excuse me. This Silapatikaram which shares still epic features with its Indo-European cousin Mahabharata and Iliad. We'll see in the Sanskrit and Greek epics, the action is centered around events in the court of kings and it culminates in a great war. The action in the Tamil epic is focused on events in the life of two ordinary people. They are from some influential merchant class that rose to prominence in the centuries following the end of the Mauryan Empire. Events that ultimately bring this protagonist into conflict with the Pandya king war and his war, though it's not central to Tamil epic as it is to Sanskrit and Greek. This is understandable in its giant basis. The Tamil epic is informed throughout by the idea of non-violence. That's my main contention. That in epics we usually have this war, which is at the center of the epic. But these Tamil epics, they're non-violent. Okay, as the community never fails to emphasize. The Mahabharata and Iliad, on the other hand, reveal in violence. An explanation can perhaps be sought into the historical experience of people themselves. The Indo-Europeans were nomadic horse people, whereas Jaradians were tillers and settled in their way of life. And in Mahabharata and Iliad, the protagonists, Yudhishthira and Bhaivis, they are males. But in Silapatikaram, we have a female protagonist, Kanagi. So So this feature also is responsible, or we may say that it's significant enough for us to propose that Silapatikaram, it stands in a subversive relationship to Mahabharata. In spite of these obvious differences, there are, however, some resemblance between Silapatikaram and other epics. Albert Lloyd, he tells that the function of epic, as he originally reminds us, it's magical. It's, it's basically a kind of ritual. He tells us about this very fact in his book titled as Singer of Tales. It was performed to word of heaven. Epic was performed to word of heaven. Only when the function became obscure or was forgotten did the epic came to be looked upon as extremely. Both Mahabharata as well as Ramayana, they are revered as sacred poetry. Even today, Mahabharata has its ritual underpinning as after the fifth Veda. This Ramayana is recited as incantation and ritual and performed as entertainment on the festival of Rama, the Ramnam. We have one critic named G.C. Varys, and he writes song and he writes legends that epic has an epitropic effect. The meter is the vehicle for the oracle in Delphi. And the apotheosis of Kanagi to the goddess Patni, it confirms the sacred ultimate character of Silapatikaram. So since I have only 10 minutes, I'll like to conclude concluding note. I'd like to say that Indian and Greek worldviews are fundamentally different. Faced with the inevitability of death, the Indian minds, they turn to metaphysical reflection. They turn to metaphysical reflection while the Greek minds engage itself with life more fully understood. This difference is reflected in the epics. Consistent with the code and for humans, the protagonists in the Indian epics are urged to renounce this world as unreal, okay, and seek enlightenment. The protagonist is quite as in the Greek epics, the protagonists, on the other hand, they cherish life and they enjoy it to the utmost. While Homer lies embalmed in a book and is the special preserve of scholars, the daily life of heroes, it continues to resonate with the uplifting stories from their epics. This Silapatikaram, which was the primary material in this paper, it is an embodiment of Tamil culture. It's included because of the saga of tradition that it reflects. It is included among the 5 great Tamil epics. Silapatikaram is one. We have Main in the Clay, we have Sivaka, Sindhamani, we have Ilayapati, and Kuntalakis. Thank you so much. If I have any question, I would like to answer that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Junaid. Your paper, it offered some interesting insights by way of the structure and conventions of Tamil literature that have been followed in the Shilapattikam. And I basically know Shilapattikam as a story of Kannagi, Kovalan, and Madhvi.
Wow, very
And
great.
And because, as a student of literature and as, someone who loves to read a lot, I have read a lot about Kannagi, Koval and Madhvi, and I was exposed to it for the first time through Discovery of India. And then, subsequently there were serials on it. This story, it is very haunting and, it has that, it continues to have that hold on me even to this day. But, the things that you have explained, partly because we basically concern ourselves with the story and we do not know much about the conventions and all the details and all the history part that you enlightened us with, and it was a very interesting presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
I particularly commend you for it.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I just hope to see it in print someday so that I can go through it more deeply.
Thank you so much for the honor.
Thank you. And for the next and the last presentation of this session, I would like to invite Dr. Manjula Goyal
Yes,
from...
ma'am. I'm present here.
RKSD PG College, Kaithal.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
She is going to share her presentation on Manju Kapoor's Home, a saga of gender discrimination with us. Please go
Thank
ahead,
you.
ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Manjula Goyal from RKSD PG College, Kaithal. And my topic is Manju Kapoor's Home, a saga of gender discrimination. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead
Oh,
with your presentation.
Home is Manju Kapoor's third novel. The protagonist Nisha feels herself controlled by the society and culture. She is educated, self-reliant, and extrovert character, but unable to take viable decisions regarding her marriage and career. Kapoor brings out the realities of Indian joint family culture where Nisha feels suffocated and doesn't feel safe. Like other female novelists, Manju Kapoor proclaims women's independence within the prevailed social setup. Home is a saga of Nisha's struggle for emancipation, how she resists oppression meted out to her by society, and in that process, she develops mental ailment. Prior to 1970s, gender was a concept that has no social meaning in English. In 1970s, feminist theorists began to use the concept to ground their arguments that biology is not destiny. Instead, they asserted meanings attributed to sex differences are defined in historically specific ways through culture and politics. These man-made interpretation of sex differences secure male dominance over women. Indian women novelists are gaining ground worldwide and winning critical review and international recognition. Among the prolific women novelists like Kamla Markandeya, Nehantara Sehgal, Anita Desai, Kiran Desai, Shashi Deshpande, Shashi Deshpande, and Jhumpa Lahari, Manju Kapoor is also a distinguished figure in the world of novels. Society, morality, values are like bondage to them. So all of them are leading forward in an ambiguous manner in the midst of relentless urbanization and far-reaching Western influences. Manju Kapoor's Home, in her third novel, the novel deals with patriarchal family of Banwari Lal who believes in old Indian custom and traditions. Manju Kapoor gave her magnificent magnanimous in the field of Indian English fiction writing. She depicted emancipation of new pretense of Indian women in her novel. It is believed that feminism is a movement which sustained women to dissent against male inclination word. It was the movement for equal rights and privileges in the field, such as social, political, and economical despotism of society. Home is a story of orthodox Indian family and saga of three generations women. Kapoor represent new women who fight against patriarchal conventions and notions that are not hopeless, feeble, and reliant. She accomplished women who struggle for self-identity and self-dependence. Manju Kapoor's Home present women in new gender roles who strives between tradition and modernity to ascertain her own identity by being economically independent without reliance on male support. Manju Kapoor is an Indian woman novelist who characterizes the suffering and divergence of the modern educated women that fight between tradition and patriarchy on the one hand, and individuality and independence on the other hand. Women characters in her novels are conscious about the predicament and prefer to struggle and revolt against the traditional and culturally accepted norms and existence. They also countenance the duties and try to reshape themselves in the socio-cultural manners of the changed society. Manju Kapoor, in her novels, described the portrait of rebellious women who search for self-discovery, self-esteem, self-sufficiency, and self-govern as they are caught between feudal principles and the hasty impending new life. At the same time, women characters in Manju Kapoor's Home are trying to sustain the stability between family and society. With penetrating and keen insight, the novelist webbed the story of her novel and hashed it with full size and shape and with much hammering on the anvil, attuned to the family voices of Lala Banwari Lal, a patriarch of cloth business at Karol Bagh in New Delhi. Home, published in the year 2006, The central figure is a woman, Nisha, who is third generation woman in Banwari Lal's family. The novel explores the portrayal of an Indian joint family of the Banwari Lal, who runs their clothes shop in Delhi. The two sons of Banwari Lal, Yashpal and Pyare Lal, are well settled in business and are married. The former to Sona and the latter to Sushila. Banwari Lal's daughter Sunita married to Murli, an unemployed man having irritable nature, believing in dowry, and liable for the burning of Sunita at the age of 32 and leaving after her only son Vicky, a slant and slender boy of timid temperament, who undertaken care by maternal uncles and their parents. Speaking about the Banwari Lal's family, Kapoor writes, to quote, the Banwari Lal family belonged to a class whose skills had been owned over generation to ensure prosperity in the marketplace. Their marriages augmented, their habits conserved, unquote. Nisha refuses to reconcile with the patriarchal and male-born society and tries to establish her own individual identity. Since the establishment of the society, woman is stamped as the weaker sex, denied full justice, social security, economic liberation, and political awareness. In this context, Buva comments to quote, humanity is male and man defines woman not in herself but as relative to him. She is not regarded as an autonomous being, unquote. Home is a saga of three generation women which explore different views of each generation woman. The first half part deals with Banwari's Lal family saga and Nisha's childhood to her college life. The latter part is exposure of Nisha's struggle for maintaining her relationship with Suresh, her broken relationship with Suresh, Mangli issues which build hurt in her marriage, her patchy skin marks, and her long success journey after so many difficulties and circumstances, which resulted in her successful business of suit stitching. In this novel, Kapoor has described protagonist Nisha, who caught in patriarchal threshold in her home. Nisha is the protagonist of the novel who struggles against the tradition of the society to establish her identity. Nisha fights for her rights. At some point of time, she was disappointed, but Kapoor holds upon her protagonist. In Nisha's life journey, her aunt Rupa always stands up with her to encourage her. Nisha emerges out lucratively all hurdles and circumstances of her life. With each difficulty of her life, she grows more and stands firm in life, and her ability makes her thriving woman from ordinary girl to a successful businesswoman. The novel ends happily with Nisha's marriage with Arvind and her two twins, a baby girl and baby boy. Kapoor mentions in the novel, to quote, her duty was over. God has been kind, however hard it was to believe, unquote. Manju Kapoor portrayed image of woman who caught in orthodox Indian family, but her female protagonist, Nisha, does not remain silent. And mimic. She revolts and elevates her enunciation against patriarchal Indian society and established her own identity as a successful businesswoman and as a successful wife, daughter-in-law, and as a mother. Divedi rightly observed, to quote, as the title indicates, the novel centers around the concerns of womankind more than those of males, and some of the dominant concern of womankind as discussed in it are dowry, barrenness, and education and financial independence, unquote. However, Nisha's built-up can be deduced in a further approach if seizes the emblematic analysis of home, which is the title of the novel too. From her childhood, Nisha could not have an occurrence of a sweet home that gives protection and contentment to a person. Her own home was unable of given that her protection, and she had to be shifted to Rupa's masses, her aunt home. Though she flourishes at Rupa's home, and all her insecurities and intuitive chaos are placed to reprieve, but she persists to straddle betwixt Rupa's home and her own home. The stable sensitivity that this was not her real home, and her own home couldn't hold her, dispossesses her of a sense of rootedness. Finally, this search for home concludes when she gets happily married, having two twins children, and finds a home which she can describe her own in the true sagacity of the sense. To conclude, Manju Kapoor records her apprehension for Indian women in this novel. She dwells on assortments, feministic issues in this novel, like female education and their empowerment, economic autonomy, annihilation of Mangli nonsense, and marriage, etc. She recites significant issues of class and nationhood and appended them to the rising sagacity of women identity in post-colonial India. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me the chance.
Thank you so much. Dr. Manjula, your paper was a grave commentary on the gender discrimination that we have sadly been, unable to leave behind even in this era. Thankfully, the protagonist in your selected work finds happiness. She finds the light at the end of the tunnel. But so many more are not that lucky. Let's hope that the situation changes in coming times.
This is
And
an unfinished combat to fight for our rights.
definitely, and the woman herself has to take center stage for it. No
Yeah.
one else will do it for her.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
With this presentation, we have come to the end of this technical session.
Shall we leave
I
now,
wish to-
ma'am?
Just wait for a second or so. Let me thank the organizers, and then we will all, So I wish to thank Holy Cross Cormorant Trust for organizing this international virtual conference and making us a part of it and giving us access and chance to uh, interact with such learned participants and audience. Thank you so much.